Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. Here in Halifax, we have sunshine, and it's actually maybe 3 days in a row. That doesn't mean the whole day's sunny. It just means that sunshine has appeared 3 days in a row. So that means that we're at the end of winter, although I know from the calendar's point of view, it says we're a little bit into spring, a week or two in spring. I don't know, but anyway, it doesn't count in Halifax until after the May long weekend. And then we just skip spring, and we kind of go from pretend spring to summer. So I have a book that is pretty new off the press, and one of the reasons I know that is because it was so friggin' expensive. It was it's hardcover, and it was an impulse buy for me in a way. Because I generally don't buy hardcovers. But I'm talking about Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. Heather Fawcett is also the author of the Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies series, which I read the first one in. Why didn't I read number 2 and 3? I think at that point I just had such a stack of books that it kind of fell out of my radar. And I think we were reading it for book club, and it broke one of my rules of not having everything in the series published for, I don't like to read until everything is finished being published in a series. And so I think that's the other reason it just slipped off my radar. So books 2 and 3 are on the horizon, because I did enjoy Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Not 100%, but good enough that, yeah, I think that would, you know what? I think those would make good holiday books. Yeah, now that I think about it, I think they'd be good airplane books, good, bus ride books, whatever. Are planes even available anymore? I don't know. I've booked a flight for Steve to go to Oakville, and I think our 2 kids are going along as well. Anyways, I just keep saying to them, the way the price of fuel's going, the way they're cutting back on planes, you may be walking. So back to the book, which is the point. It's also signed, which the bookseller, an independent bookseller in Lunenburg, oh my God, what are they called? Bookbound, I think. So we've got a signed copy, and she felt this was like a real selling feature, and I'm more like, I don't think so. I mean, that just looks like the first things that I do when I start my abstract art. Make a mark, and then paint over it. So I've got a signed copy. The book is about a woman who runs a cat rescue in the 1920s in Montreal. And she had a magical kind of thing happened on her street, which destroyed the storefront. And so winter's coming, and they've got to find a new place for all these cats, and for her to run her charitable cat adoption system. And she goes to down the road, slightly fancier neighborhood, but there's a store where it's just super, super cheap, and she can't figure out why. And in this story in Montreal, magicians are not exactly outlawed, but they're not really welcome, because generally speaking, the magicians behave like a bunch of 5-year-olds fighting over a Tonka truck. They're just always fighting. And so consequently, the non-magicians are sitting there with holes blasted in their doors, or streets completely destroyed, or a mountain having been eroded, or they're walking down the street and all of a sudden there's a forest of rose bushes that you can't get through because it's some magical spell. So they're not welcomed, and they're almost illegal. So what turns out is that and this is a little bit of a spoiler, so so skip ahead about 10 seconds if you don't want the spoiler. A woman, what's her name? Agnes Aubert rents a storefront that turns out to have a magician's workshop in the basement. Okay, you can come back now. All right, because I think that little piece that I just said that you can't hear, it would set the story up for the first 25, 30 some odd pages. You just don't want to know that little piece of information. It's part of the fun. Okay, so as she's going along, she's encountering these strange people who are coming through the store. She doesn't know why. She gets a police officer who's kind of handsome that she kind of falls for coming through, and he's not exactly looking for cats, but he's not exactly saying what he is looking for. But there is a little cat that he does take a shine to, and so he invites her out for coffee. And she can't decide, is this police business or does he like me? And so that's a little thread of happeningness. Agnes has a sister. Is it Elaine? Eloise? I just finished this book and I'm so bad with names. Let's just call her E, because it does start with E. And the sister is younger, and her husband is running for council in Montreal. And so it's okay if this sister is associated with the cat shelter, but not with some of the other things that are beginning to transpire. So there's a lot of secrecy going on. There's a lot of illusionary things happening on. There are two magicians in the stories, brother and sister. The sister is a little bit older. The brothers came to his magical powers late in childhood, probably in his teens, and is quite powerful. And the sister has become envious and wants what the younger brother has. So he at no point realizes that this sister has malice in her heart. He just thinks she's just being an older sister. So there's a little bit of dysfunction going on in that relationship as she, tries to blow him apart to smithereens. And he's like, no, I think she's just a little bit mad. So that's a separate family's dynamic that's going on. And the shelter, for various reasons, has to move location and ends up between a bank and I can't remember what the second store is. It's like a really fancy, let's just call it a spa shop. I don't remember exactly because it doesn't feature much in, but by being on the same stair set as this bank, all of a sudden rich patrons are coming in to see what's going on. And the donations start to flow. So the cat shelter is starting to it's just, the whole thing is just starting to become more and more marvelous, but at the same time, these warring magicians are just making things really difficult for Agnes and her sister, that name starts with an E. So how are we going to resolve all this, and where's the love going to flow? Because I think that Heather Fawcett does love a little bit of love. Now, thankfully, it's not instant love, and it's not like overly dramatic, oh my God, does he love me, doesn't he love me kind of heart pounding going on, thank goodness. So we do spend a lot more time with the magic and the cats, thankfully, than the love. And there's a fairly sweet ending. I think the whole book is charming. I really enjoyed it. I got through it fairly quickly, partly because it was the weekend and partly because the storyline really captured me. There is one cat who, His Majesty, turns out to be a traitor. Well, aren't most cats at some point in their little lives, don't at some point they look at you when you need them the most and they just go, I got other things to do. So His Majesty has a moment like that when it's really inopportune. So the cats play a really fun part of the story. Let me see. I think if I remember the ending, I think it's possible that this could go into more books. I mean, who doesn't love a cat shelter? And you definitely could come up with more craziness when magic is involved. So I think it's possible that we might see another book out of this series. The front cover I really like. I've seen a few puzzles go past where it's similar, where you get the cats on the bookshelves and they're just kind of hanging around. Or I've seen puzzles where they've got the cats hanging around in tea shops or knitting stores or whatever. So yeah, that works for me. I don't know, like the same thing could have happened with a dog shelter. I would have enjoyed it just as much, but it's just that I am a little more leaning in the cat direction. There were a couple things I wanted to tell you. If you vaguely follow Canada Reads on the CBC, that has come and gone. The winner is out. There's a person drowning on the front cover. I'm not going to read it. So no, it doesn't matter whether it's a good book or not. But that you can catch, I think, on CBC, maybe on YouTube, and certainly in their archives. You would be able to follow the debates and see how that went if you missed it. This Saturday coming, April 25th, is Independent Bookstore Day. I don't know if that's international, just North American, I'm not sure. But anyways, I'm going to trot in and buy something. Probably, I know that I've collected a whole bunch of points, but I'm saving them for, there's a couple of books that I've got on hold. I'm saving my points for that. But I'm still going to go shopping on that day because they've got this great thing. You can spin the dial and there are a whole bunch of different options. And so you might get an extra 5% off your purchases, or you might get a cool sheet of wrapping paper, or you might get a coffee from the coffee shop around the corner. So I like to spin the dial once a year and see what I'm going to get. And there isn't a particular book that I am looking for. And what am I reading now? I'm reading Dissolution. Now, my sister was traveling about 6 months ago, and she was going to be gone for a substantial amount of time, I think like a month or something like that. So, and she was taking enough books, or at least 2 or 3 books with her that she didn't have to go shopping for books while she was away. And she wanted a historical mystery. And this is what I read this a long time ago, I think when it first came out. And this again was one of those moments where I realized, I don't like to read unless the whole series is out, because it took me quite a number of years to get through the whole thing. So it was originally copyrighted in 2003, and I probably read it around then sometime. So I recommended it to her because I've always wanted to come back and finish the thing. So I saw it in a used bookstore, I think last summer, except for number 1. And I think I found this in a used bookstore. No, sorry, one of those little free libraries. And so picked it up and thought, yeah, I'm going to do this. So I recommended it to her. And she came back and she goes, so what did you think of that book? Because she thought I was reading it at the same time. And I said, well, I haven't read it yet. And she goes, well, we need to talk. Now, when my sister says that, it's hit or miss. You should either run with all your money or, pull up a cushion and it could go well. So I'm not sure which way I should go with this. So I've just started it, and I do have this on my radar for completing over the course of the summer. So this is a reread. But the others aren't. So, if you are looking for a good... Well, I said that once upon a time I thought this was excellent, so I'm hoping it remains excellent. And I think a few friends of mine who I generally, if they say something's pretty good, I usually don't agree. But these friends said, oh, it's really, really good. Yeah, you should reread this. So again, I'm a little bit worried about what's going to come out of that. I went to the library and I picked up a whole pile of books, and so we'll have that to talk about in the next little while. And I think that's it for announcements. I thought there was something else that was going through my head that I thought I should tell you guys about, but oh well, probably be there next week. So, it's just on the tip of my brain. Yeah, so if you want to do something fun this weekend, go to an independent bookstore in your neighborhood and see if you can buy something. I mean, even if you just buy gift cards or a pen or something, it's just a way of supporting. And I know that the price of books has gone up and it makes it a little bit scary for purchasing purposes, but um, oh, can you imagine your life without a bookstore? I couldn't. I keep saying to my daughters, like there's my daughter, that one of the things that needs to be near me when I evolve out of this house is I need to be close to either a library or a bookstore. And I just cannot imagine my life without both, really. But that's because at this point in time, I'm generally reading more than 100 books a year, and I think that's above the norm. I'm not positive, but that's not as a boast, but that's just as an indication of just how many books I need to flow through my eyeballs. And thank goodness for the library, because there's no way I could afford to buy that many books. But there's some that are just really, really worth the price. And as I'm coming to our retired stage, I'm starting to realize some of those books that I borrowed from the library are actually worth a reread and then a second go round. Like that would make it the third. So some of the books I read way, way back, I'm thinking, yeah, and I've got Steve reading them as well too quite often. So yeah, the strong books are really worth having on your bookshelves. Okay, I think that's it for me. It's kind of a quick one today. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye for now.